Hello, Math 30-2 students. We're looking at lesson 6.4, modeling data using exponential functions. So in example number 1, Sonia did an experiment to determine the cooling curve of water. She placed the same volume of hot water in 3 identical cups. Then she recorded the temperature of the water in each cup as it cooled over time. Her data for 3 trials is given as follows. So they're giving us the time, which is our x-coordinate, and our temperature, which is our y-coordinate. And they do that for 3 trials. So what we need to do is figure out a way to determine the equation of the exponential regression function that models Sonia's data to the nearest hundredth. So regression is where we use our calculator to estimate the best exponential function that goes through as many points as possible. So what I'm going to do is show you how to do that. So what you're going to need to do is go to your graphing calculator. You're going to go to Stat and then Edit. Okay, so Stat Edit will bring up this L1, L2 chart. So again, just to repeat, I'm pressing Stat, then Edit. And what I'm doing is I'm putting all my x values, meaning all the times, into L1 and all the temperatures, which is my y coordinate, into L2. So we're going to start with 0 minutes, then we have 5, then we have 10, and then we have 20, 30, and 40. And then you'll see that the next trial we continue on. So I'll just fix this one up. That should be 40. Trial number 2, now you're going to enter those values just underneath in L1 as well. So again, for trial number 2, we have 0 minutes, we have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, we have 20, 30, and 40. And now we continue to trial number 3. The time in minutes is 0, 5, 10, 20, 30, and 40. Once you enter all the times from trial 1, 2, and 3, you're going to go and move your arrow to the right, and you're going to start with your L2s, which is your temperatures. So we know that at 0 minutes we had 80 degrees Celsius, so enter 80. Then we have 69 degrees Celsius for 5 minutes, then 61. So this is from trial number 1 that I'm entering my data. 45, 34, and then 26. And now we go on to trial number 2, 75 for y, 66, 59, 44, 32, and then 23. And now we go to trial number 3, 78, 68, 61, 44, 33, and 25. So once you have this all entered, now you're going to press Stat, S-T-A-T. So you're going to press Stat, and then you're going to go to where it says Calc, which is moving your arrow to the right. So I'm going to move my arrow to the right until I get to this menu here. And we are doing the one. In this one, since we're doing exponential, we actually have to go to number 9. So you're going to scroll down or press number 9. So again, to repeat, I'm going to Stat to the right to Calc, and I'm pressing number 9, or I'm moving my cursor until you get to number 9. So I'm just going to press 9, and then as you'll see, this will appear here. If not, if you have an older calculator, just keep pressing Enter. But what you should see is that the X list should be L1, your Y list should be L2. So I'm going to keep pressing Enter until it says Calculate, and then press Enter again. And so what should appear is this. So you should get these exact same values if you entered those data points correctly. If you have different numbers than me, that means that when you're entering your L1, L2 values, something was off or you missed a value. So once you have this, you're gonna copy these numbers in, but you're gonna round to the nearest hundredth. So we're gonna use our a and b only. So a and b, you're gonna rewrite it. So our equation is y equals, our a was 78.68 when rounded to 2 decimal places, and 0.97 is our b to the power of x. So our exponentials will always look like this. So that's how I rewrote it. Once you have the equation, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to graph your equation. So in my graphing calculators, you're going to go to y equals. So press y equals, clear whatever you have there. Okay, so y equals, clear everything. Once you have it cleared, you're going to press vars. Then you're going to go to number 5. So you guys are going to press number 5, which says statistics. Then once you press 5, you're going to go to equation, EQ. So I'm going to go to the right until I get EQ. And then I'm going to press number 1, and so are you. So you're going to press number 1. And what that does is it copies and pastes your equation into Y1, so that way you have the most accurate graph. Once you have it copied and pasted, you're going to go to window, and you're going to use the values that we had. X is time, so we know that the lowest time we had was 0 from our charts. The highest time was 40. And for Y, our lowest time, or our lowest temperature, was, if you look at all the values, I'm going to go from temperature being, I have a 23. It seems like 23 is my lowest value. So if you want, you can go 23 and up. So 23 is my lowest, and my highest value seems to be 80. So we're going to put 80 for our Y max, which is degrees Celsius. Then we're going to graph it, and it should look like this exponential equation. So the question that they're asking for is, once you've graphed it, is estimate the temperature of the water 15 minutes after the experiment began. Round your answer to the nearest degree. So 15 minutes is time. So time is the x coordinate. So what you're going to do, guys, is you're going to press trace, then you're going to put 15 and then press enter. Okay, so trace 15, enter. Or you can do it the way I'm doing it, because this is how my calculator has to see it. Second trace, number 1, press enter, and then enter 15, 1, 5, press enter. And you should get that the y coordinate, which is the answer that I see for y, is 51 degrees Celsius. So around your answer to the nearest degree, we should have 51 degrees Celsius. So what I'm going to do is write some steps here so you guys can see what I'm pressing. So here in this step, I pressed stat, then I pressed edit, which was number 1, then I entered the values into L1 and L2. Then I pressed stat again once they were all entered, and I went to the right until I saw calc, and then I went to number, for you guys, let me just double check that if it's the right numbers. So I'm using, for you guys, it has to actually be 0. So stat calc 0 takes you to EXP regression. So that's what you needed to press. So 0. Okay. So press stat calc 0 exponential regression and press enter again. And that should give you the matching numbers that I have. For B, I went to y equals, I pressed that button, then I pressed vars, then I pressed number 5 for statistics, and then it took me to a menu where I went to the right until I got to EQ, and then I picked number 1, press enter. And what that does is it graphs it for you, and you just have to adjust your window. So my window that I chose to adjust it to was, I used the values for X to be from 0 up to 40, because that was my time. And for Y, I chose to go from 23 up to 80, going up by 1. So this is your min, your max, and your scale. And then what I did was I pressed trace. I had x equal to 15, so I entered 15 and then I pressed enter, and I got that the answer for y, which is my temperature, is 51 degrees Celsius, and that's my answer. Now in C, they want us to estimate when the water reaches a temperature of 30 degrees Celsius. Round your answer to the nearest minute. Okay, so for 30 degrees, that is giving us a y value. So when y is 30 degrees, you're going to enter that as y2 because our equation should be y1. So you're going to start by pressing y equals, and our equation in y equals should have been that long thing. So let me just go back and show you. So when I go to y equals, I have this for y1. So I should be entering the 30 degrees Celsius into y2. And then when I graph it, you should see an intersection. The intersection point is my solution. So once you have, you can see an intersection, you're going to press second trace. You're going to go to number 5. You're going to move your cursor until you're as close as possible to that intersection. And then you're going to press enter 3 times. And what that should do is it should give you an answer of, it says to the nearest minute, so it's going to be the x coordinate is your answer. So 33 minutes. If you look at what my x value is, it says 33 minutes. So the steps that I did was, this was my equation. I had 30 degrees for y2. Then I pressed second trace. And then I pressed number 5 for intersection. Then I moved my cursor until I was as close as possible to the intersection, and then I just pressed enter 3 times. And that gave me the x answer, which is 33 minutes. So my answer should be the x coordinate when I'm doing that kind of step. So this is the idea of our lesson. Is step 1, we have to enter the data into our stat charts, L1, L2. Then we need the equation, we need to graph it, and then be able to find the x or y coordinate depending on what they're asking for. So what we're going to do is repeat those steps for example number 2, and you'll see that it's the same procedure. Okay, so what I'm going to start by doing is, this one's asking me for a scatter plot first, so I'm going to plot these values first and then get the equation of the exponential function. So x should be your time and y is your temperature. X goes here, and that's going to be time in minutes. And your y coordinate should go vertically, and that's your temperature. And that's going to be in degrees Celsius. So our time is going to go from 0 to 45. So I'm going to go up by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And then for your y coordinate, I'm going to go up by 20s for the temperature. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. And then I'm going to plot the values. So at 0 time, we know that the temperature is going to be 90 degrees Celsius. So I'm going to put that right here. At 5 minutes, we're going to be at 78. At 10, we're going to be at 68. At 15, we don't have a y coordinate, so we don't put that in. So we do not include this. Don't include. And the same thing goes for when we include it into our L1, L2 charts, we don't put it in if it doesn't have the other coordinate. 20, we're going to plot 52. At 30, we're going to plot 38. And at 45, we should be plotting 26. Okay, and then what you're just doing is, it's a scatter plot, you don't have to connect them, so you can just leave it as it is. Now they want the equation. So this is where we go to stat, edit, and then you'll see that if you go to stat edit, you're going to have all these values in your chart. So I recommend you do this first. I recommend you do second plus sign, and then you go to number 4 and press enter. Okay, so I'll show you what I'm doing here or how that looks. Okay, so in my calculator, I'm going to start by pressing second plus sign. So what that should do is it should bring you to a menu that I don't unfortunately have. So I don't have that menu, but you will. So actually mine is different. So you're going to go to second plus sign, and for number 4, it's going to say clear all lists. Okay, so clear all entries, that's going to be a different number for me. Would you like to delete all entries? You just want to press enter and keep doing that. So the menu might be slightly different, but you'll see it. So press second, number 4, enter, and then enter again. So what that's going to do is it's going to delete all the entries you did first of all in the previous question. So that way you're starting all fresh. And then we're going to go again and do that stat edit. So I'm going to go stat, number 1, edit. And it should have cleared my list, but unfortunately it didn't. Yours should if you did it properly. So I'm just going to clear mine. So I'm just deleting all these numbers here. Stat, edit, okay, so I'm going to the right, delete, 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 delete until it's all clean. So by doing the second plus sign, number 4, enter, enter, that will clear your list where you don't have to delete each individual one, it'll do it for you. Okay, so for this one, you're entering time, which is 0 minutes. So that's gonna be your L1. So 0, then you go to 5, then 10, we're going to ignore 15 because it doesn't have a y coordinate. So we're going to go and jump to 20, and then 30, and then 45. You're going to go to the right, and you're going to enter 90, then 78, then 68. You're going to leave the 15 value blank, like I said before. You're going to jump to 52, then 38, and then 26. Okay, so once you have all these values entered, now we're going to get the equation. So you're going to press stat, go to the right till you get calc, go to number. For you guys, it's going to be, you guys are pressing 0. So you're going down to 0. Okay, so once you have exponential regression, EXP regression selected, keep pressing enter until it gets you to this equation right here. So this is the equation that you need to have. So we're going to round this to the nearest hundredth and keep the A and the B. Okay, so we're going to write, remember we press stat, edit, and then we press number 1, enter. And what that did was we entered the L1, L2, and then we go to stat, calc, and then we press, you guys are pressing number 0. Okay, and then you keep pressing enter until it calculates it for you. And then what you're doing is writing it in this form. Y equals, your A was 89.73 when you round to the nearest hundredth. And then in brackets, your B is 0.97 to the power of X. So this is the equation they're looking for. Now we need to graph this, and once we graph it, we need to find out either the X or the Y depending on the question. So once you have your equation done, like you can see here, I'm going to press Y equals, I'm going to clear everything that's there. So clear your Y, your Y1, clear your Y2. Once it's all clear, you're going to press vars For you guys, you're going to press number 5. And then that's going to take you to this menu right here where you're going to go to the right until you get to EQ at the very top. And then you press number 1. So what that does is it copies and pastes this equation. As you see that it pasted it here, but it really doesn't matter. You can paste in Y1, Y2. It just changes the color. That's all it does. So once you paste the equation, it should look like this. You're going to change your window now. So press window. And we want to put our smallest time is 0 up to our largest time was 45. And then for Y, we want to go from our smallest temperature, which was 26 degrees Celsius, up to a temperature of, we have 90. Okay, so now you can graph it and you should see this exponential equation being formed. Question A says, what is the temperature of the water when the water has been cooled for 15 minutes to the nearest degree Celsius? So they're giving us time. So for you guys, you can press trace, you can press enter 15 and then enter. So the way of doing that would be trace, you can go 15, write in 15 and then press enter. Okay, so again, my calculator is slightly different, so I'm going to have to go second trace number 1. I'm going to press 15 and enter, and you should get 59 degrees Celsius to the nearest degree. So 59 degrees Celsius is what I'm going to write. And that's my answer. The next one is saying, how long does it take for the temperature to become half its initial temperature? Well, our initial temperature, if you guys look, was 90 degrees Celsius. They want half of that. So we're going to divide this answer by 2 and get 45 degrees. So this is our Y value that we need to enter. Whenever you need to enter a Y value, you're going to go to Y equals, and what you're going to do is enter that Y value of 45 anywhere. Okay, so it could be in your Y2, wherever you have a space. And all that's doing is changing the color. Once you have 45 entered into your Y2 or your Y1, as long as it's not, as long as your equation is visible, then you want to graph it. So you should see 2 graph pieces. Where they intersect is your solution. So you're going to press second trace, number 5, and you're going to go as close as possible to the intersection that you can by moving your cursor left or right, and then press enter 3 times. Enter, enter, enter. Okay, so you should find that the intersection is 24.827, which it wants you to round to the nearest minute, so I would round to 25 minutes. Okay, so once you have your Y1 is that exponential regression equation, your Y2 you could enter as 45 degrees, and then you're pressing second trace, number 5, which is called the intersection. You're going to move your cursor as much as possible to that intersection point, and then you're just going to press enter 3 times. So enter, 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 and you should get that the x coordinate is 25 minutes when you round to the nearest minute. So that's your final answer. Okay, so that is your lesson. That is your lesson for 6.4. So I hope you guys understood that. Let me know if you're having trouble finding these buttons. So